Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhar Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhar Hari Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Jajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiara Banachari Yamuna Tiara Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhar Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhar Hari Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiara Banachari Yamuna Tiara Banachari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are reading from the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Chapter 21, the instructions of Maharaj Prithu. Didn't we read text 33 yesterday? Yes? Yes. Which means that today, the place marker needs to put there was a long, text 34, how about that, huh? Text 34, okay? Asao ihaneka guno dvaraha pritag vidya dravya guna kriyo kritibi sampajate ratasaya linga namabir vishuddha vijnana jnanaha svarupataha asau ihana kena guno dvaraha pritag vidya dravya guna kriyo kritibi sampajate ratasaya linga namabir vishuddha vijnana jnana svarupataha asau ihaneka guno dvaraha pritag vidya dravya guna kriyo kritibi sampajate ratasaya linga namabir vishuddha vijnana jnana svarupataha asau ihaneka guno dvaraha pritag vidya dravya guna kriyo kritibi sampajate ratasaya linga namabir vishuddha vijnana jnana svarupataha. Repeat. I can't hear louder. What? I can't hear them speaking, so I will go on to the words for words. Asao. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. Iha, in this world. Aneka, various. Gunaha, qualities. Agunaha, transcendental. Ajvara Jagna, Pritag Vidya, varieties. Dravya, physical elements. Guna, ingredients. Kriya, performances. Utkibi, by chanting different mantras. Sampade is worshipped. Artha, interest. Asaya, purpose. Linga, form. Namabi, name. Vishuddha, without contamination. Raise your hand if you're without contamination. Vijnana, science. Jnana, concentrated. Svarupaha, in his own form. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental and not contaminated by this material world. But although he is concentrated spirit soul without material variety, for the benefit of the conditioned soul, he nevertheless accepts different types of sacrifice performed with various material elements, rituals, and mantras, and offered to the demigods under different names according to the interests and purposes of the performers. Repeat that. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental and not contaminated by this material world. But although he is concentrated spirit soul, without material variety, for the benefit of the conditioned soul, he nevertheless accepts different kinds of sacrifice performed with various material elements, rituals, and mantras, and offered to the demigods under different names according to the interests and purposes of the performer. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. For material prosperity, there are recommendations in the Vedas for various types of yajna, sacrifice. In the Bhagavad Gita 3.10, it is confirmed that Lord Brahma created all living beings, including human beings and demigods, and provided them to perform yajna according to their material desires. Saha yajna prajas vrishta. These performances are called yajnas because their ultimate goal is to satisfy the Supreme, that's it, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. The purpose of performing yajnas is to get material benefit, but because the aim is to simultaneously satisfy the Supreme Lord, such yajnas have been recommended in the Vedas. Such performances are of course known as karmakanda, or material activities. And all material activities are certainly contaminated by the three, modes of what? Material nature. Generally, the karmakanda ritualistic ceremonies are performed in a mode of passion, because we want what we want now, right? Yet the conditioned souls, both humans, beings, and demigods, are obliged to perform these yajnas because without them, one cannot be happy at all. The bird is translating that into the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Is it? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that these karmakanda ritualistic ceremonies, although contaminated, contain touches of devotional service. Because whenever there is a performance of any yajna, Lord Vishnu is given a central position. This is very important because even a little endeavor to please Lord Vishnu is bhakti and of great value. A tinge of bhakti purifies the material nature of the performances, which by devotional service gradually come to the transcendental position. Therefore, although such yajnas are superficially material activities, the results are transcendental. Such yajnas as Surya Yajna, Indra Yajna, and Chandra Yajna are performed in the names of the demigods. But these demigods are bodily parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The demigods cannot accept offerings for themselves, but they can accept them for the Supreme Personality of, yes, just as a departmental tax collector of the government cannot collect taxes for his personal account. Did they hear that? Just as the departmental tax collector of the government cannot collect taxes for his personal account, but can realize them for the government. Any yajna performed with this complete knowledge and understanding is described in Bhagavad Gita as Brahmarpanam, or a sacrifice offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since no one but the Supreme Lord can enjoy the results of sacrifice, the Lord says that He is the actual enjoyer of all sacrifices. Bhoktaram Jagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Sacrifices should be performed with this view in mind, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 4:24. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir, Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhinaha. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom. Because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consumption is absolute, that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature, the performer of sacrifices must always keep in view that the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas are meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishnu Aradhane Pantaha, Vishnu Purana 3:8-9. Anything material or spiritual done for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord is understood to be actual yajna, and by performing such yajnas, one gets liberation from material bondage. The direct method of getting liberation from the material bondage is devotional service. Remember this, as this will be on the test. Comprising of 9 different methods: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, and Atmani Vedanam. The 9-fold processes is described in this verse as Vishuddha Vijnana, or satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly by transcendental knowledge, concentrated on the form of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This is the best method for satisfying the Supreme Lord. One cannot take to this direct process, however, should take the indirect process of performing yajnas for the satisfaction of Vishnu, or yajna. Vishnu is therefore called Jagyapati, Shriyapatim Yagyapatim Jagyapatim, Bhagavatam 2:9-15. The Supreme Personality of Godhead's deep scientific knowledge is concentrated to the supreme point. For example, medical science knows some things specifically, but doctors do not know exactly how things happen in the body. Lord Krishna, however, knows everything in detail. Therefore, his knowledge is Vijnana Jnana, because it does not have any of the defects of material science. The Supreme Personality of God is Vishuddha Vijnana Jnana, concentrated transcendental knowledge. Therefore, even though he accepts karma kanda, material yajnas, he always remains in a transcendental position. Therefore, the mention of Aneka Guna refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead's many transcendental qualities, for he is not affected by the material qualities. The different kinds of material paraphernalia are physical elements, or physical elements, are also gradually transformed into spiritual understanding, because ultimately there is no difference between material and spiritual qualities, for everything emanates from the Supreme Lord. This is realized by a gradual process of realization and purification. One vivid example of this is Dhruva Maharaj, who took to meditation in the forest to achieve material benefit, but ultimately became spiritually advanced and did not want any benediction for material profit. He is simply satisfied for the association of the Supreme Lord. Asaya means determination. Generally, a conditioned soul has a determination for material profit, but when these desires for material profit are satisfied through performance of yajna, one gradually achieves a spiritual platform. Then his life becomes perfect. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10 therefore recommends akarma sarva kamova moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yejita purisam. Everyone, whether a kama, a devotee, sarva kama, a karmi, or moksha kama, a jnani or yogi, is encouraged to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the direct method. In this way, he can get both material and spiritual profit simultaneously. So here in some of the words, it's mentioned, vijnana. What does vijnana mean? What was it translated here as? Science. Now, why is it considered science? What does science do? My son used to, as he got a chemistry degree, and he would experiment with dangerous chemicals. He wouldn't put them in his brain in a box where it was, you put your hands in and you'd mix things, and you do an experiment to see what the result is. So this is why having devotion is a concept, but devotional service is doing the experiment. Someone says, can you show me God? What is the answer? Yes, but you have to be willing to do the experiment. So this is why it's a science. We're willing to do the experiment, and we experiment to see what happens. But people don't believe in science. That's why they have a hard time with spiritual realization or a hard time coming up with new technologies. J.P. Morgan was working on 2 new technologies with Thomas Edison. And J.P. Morgan, in fact, one oil executive told me there'll never be any kind of technologies except for oil. And I said, that's what J.P. Morgan's father told him when he was working on 2 new technologies with Thomas Edison. And his father told him that it was just a circus show. It was being done with smoke and mirrors, and you're a stupid child to think anyone will ever use these. And the man said, good for J.P. Morgan's father. I said, you know what the 2 new technologies were? What technologies did Thomas Edison come out with? Which one? Yeah, electric wiring. Electric wiring, and what else? Do people use those? Maybe. I think there's some here, aren't there? Or is that a candle? It's not a candle. It's a light bulb, right? So, because it hadn't been used before, that means it's not possible, right? Because you haven't done the experiment, the result is not possible. And this is what one of my relatives actually wrote this idea. He calls it contempt prior to investigation. Oh, that's not possible. It's not possible to create electric wiring and light bulbs. It's not possible for the mantra to take effect. Have you tried the mantra? Well, no, but I just know it's not possible for the mantra to take effect. But they know this without trying? How do they know this? He accepts different kinds of sacrifice. But what does Krishna say about these sacrifices? says when you have passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you'll become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. You find that many Brahmins will do these karmakanda sacrifices, and they perform some very elaborate fire sacrifice and chant some mantras so someone can get a material benefit. Now, in other words, we're going to the spiritual God to offer some sacrifice to achieve a material benefit. Doesn't this seem, this is why Dhruva Maharaj went to God to pray for some material benefit. But he was meditating. First he was just eating fruits, and then he went to water, then he went to leaves, and then he was just breathing in the air. I don't think the air is pure enough to live off of now like that. And he saw Vishnu within his heart. And then Vishnu disappeared within his heart. He opened his eyes, and Vishnu was there and says, "What can I give to you?" He says, "Well, I wanted to have a kingdom better than my great-grandfather," because his father was Maharaj Uttanapad. The grandfather was Swayambhuva Manu. The great-grandfather was Lord Brahma. So he wanted a kingdom even better than his. He said, "But now that I've seen you, I only want you." Because once you have Krishna, you have everything. If Krishna is the source of everything, if you have Krishna, what more do you need? People think they need so many things, and they always need more because it's never quite enough. If you're trying to create an ocean, you take just a drop of water, right? Or then you can get 1,000 drops of water. Now you have an ocean, right? Is it? Can you float a boat in 1,000 drops? 1,000,000? Maybe 100 trillion. But Krishna is the reservoir of all the pleasure. See, the birds are confirming it. So, the Lord is the actual Jagya. It gets free from material bondage. But what is the karma kanda called in relation to devotional service? Which one is direct, which one is indirect? It's indirect. Like indirect current. Or is that alternating current? There's no indirect current. There's a direct current and an alternating current. So then, by doing the indirect method, you won't get the real electricity. So, what is the direct current? What is the direct method? 9 processes. Can you name them all? Can you name one? Smarnam. Anyone have another one? Mangal? What's one of the 9 processes of devotional service? Kirtanam? What else? What else? Atmani Vedanam, surrendering everything? Do we make friends with the Lord? Is it Vandanam? Is it Speculatanam? Is that one? Speculatanam. Nindanam, making offenses? Serving the deity? Prajalpanam, talking nonsense, is that one? No? No speculatanam? So those are the processes: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers, making friends with the Lord, surrendering everything. These are the processes. So do we do some kinds of sacrifice? Sometimes you see pictures of people in India sitting on a bed of nails. Do we sit on the bed of nails, or do we sit on a big block of ice? Which one do we do? What kinds of sacrifices do we do? Krishna says, of sacrifices I am what? What is it? Chanting of holy names, japa. Because when you're chanting on beads, you're engaging the tongue, you're engaging the ears, you're engaging the mind, you're engaging the sense of touch. And as Krishna mentioned, kirtan in Bhagavad Gita, kirtayanto mam. And did we just think it might be a nice idea? See, we get our, and to offer food, or did Krishna mention that? Did somebody just think, maybe we should offer food to Krishna? Does Krishna say that? Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati. Offer me a leaf, a flower, a fruit or water, and I will accept it. So do they mention that in the Bible? Not sure. The Catholics chant rosary beads. Did they get that from the Bible? Does it say that in the Bible? Where did they get that from? St. Francis of Assisi went to Egypt and he met with the Mameluke, who was the head of like the Egyptian Muslim one, and they had beads that they would chant names of Allah on these beads. And he thought that would be a good idea, so he instituted it. Is that the way we institute things? They look like a good idea? Did we institute things just when they look like a good idea? Like if we think speculatinam is a good idea, do we now have 10 processes of devotional service? Do we? No? But isn't speculating good? Don't you speculate, you come up with the right answers? No? So we don't speculate on new processes? No speculation? Or does Krishna already give us the processes here? So is the direct better than the indirect? Do we teach the karma kanda? Do we have a list of which demigods to go to for which desire? Or does it say akarma sarma karma va, that we just approach Krishna or Vishnu to satisfy our desires? And it says there that there's a tinge of the devotion in the karma kanda. Is that what we want, just a tinge? It's like gold. Do you want gold? If you have 4 karat gold, there's some karat in there, right? But what is pure gold? Is it 12 karat? No, it's 24 karat, isn't it? So do we want the 2 karat or the 24 karat? But it's all gold, right? But if it's only 2 karat, it has to be more than 90% something else. It's called as alloys, mixtures. So to take pure gold, we take the alloys out. Because we have a different philosophy than Christianity. In Christianity, they have the fractured soul theology, that the soul is fractured and that the soul needs Jesus to be fixed. The soul is broken and the soul is inherently evil and needs Jesus to be fixed to become pure. We have the pure soul theology. The soul is pure, but when it's mixed with material qualities, then he becomes impure. So when we're talking about the alloys or the mixtures, would we be talking about the modes of material nature? So then, to become pure, do we take out the modes of nature? Yes? Of course we take out the modes of nature. Well, we remove them from our consciousness and we act in Krishna's service because it's the motivations of the material modes. It's like if we take intoxication, we're in the mode of ignorance. You remove the intoxication, you're now not in the mode of ignorance. The modes may influence you. And these karma kanda ones, by doing that, does it remove you from passion? No, because Prabhupada said in the purport that they're done in the mode of passion, because it's all about something you want. So, in that process, we do the sacrifices to satisfy our desires. Whereas when we perform kirtan and artik and japa, we do it to satisfy desires also. So why is it different? Srimad, you know? Why is it different? Oh, why is it different? Who knows? Well, because we're trying to satisfy Krishna's desires. That's the whole different thing. Somebody, one t-shirt said, everyone has to serve someone, I'll just serve myself. I told the one man here a few years ago that he probably shouldn't wear that shirt because the shirt says, everybody believes in something. I believe I'll have another beer. It had a picture of the beer on the... I said, you may not want to be saying that because we don't promote alcoholic beverages. Is it A, because it's one of our regulative principles? B, because it's bad for yourself, health? C, because it's addicting? D, because it's in the mode of ignorance? Or E, all of the above? Which is it? Is it all of the above? Yes. So if someone wants to become a Brahmin, they have to give up the intoxication. But does that mean that's the only reason? Does that mean non-Brahmins can drink alcohol with impunity? Or it means the Brahmins can because they're transcendental. You know, in one of the spiritual groups, they said that the brahmacharis can't smoke cigarettes or have sex with women, but the sannyasis can because they're renounced. Does that make sense to you? No. If you're renounced, you don't do it. You can't say, even though I do it, I'm renounced, it doesn't affect me. It does affect you. So here we see the process is devotional service. As like Bhakti Chaitanya Swami was saying in some of the lectures, that we may not know how to become purified. But if we approach Krishna, then he helps us become purified. You may not actually know how electricity works, but if you turn the switch, it still works, doesn't it? So do we know how devotional service works? Or do we just approach Krishna and let Krishna work his magic? And then we have to understand that all that we do and all that we give away should be done as a sacrifice to Krishna. And this is why when it was talking about Varnashram Dharma in some of the past verses, that it's not just learning an occupation, like you learn how to do business, or you learn how to take care of cows, or you serve people, or you teach, but you do it with the mood to serve God and to serve the people. If each of the people is serving everyone else, then the society becomes benefit. But if each person is only trying to serve themselves and take from the others, it becomes a difficult society. I wonder what that would be like. We do see more of that, don't we? We see more of that. Just think how good the society would be if all of them were doing the best job they could for Krishna's service and to make sure that the people have a better life. Imagine how much better things would be just by a change in attitude. Instead of serving myself, I'll serve Krishna and the people involved. If you're working at the shop, you make sure that the people are attended to nicely. If you're working on a car, you put it together nicely. If you're driving a taxi, you drive it safely. Have you seen that? I saw it once. The guy actually put the blinker on and went to the side of the road. But we didn't take a picture, so you may not believe it. But so here we see that the kind of sacrifice we should do is a sacrifice to please Krishna. and the sacrifice of the process of hearing in the fire of the controlled mind. This is the sacrifice that we should be doing, thinking, how can we be a servant? How can we help others? That's what we're supposed to be doing, not promoting how great we are. We're just a small living entity. My one friend in Laguna Beach says, I may not be much, but I'm all I think about. Prabhupada said that there's so many universes. And inside this one little universe here, and inside this universe there's many planets. And we're on this one Earth planet. And in that there's many countries like America, and many cities like Los Angeles, and many streets. And on one of those streets there's a building. And in that building, one person is there, and he is thinking he is very important. How important can you be when you're just a small speck in relation to everything? Even some important people. There was one important person that had 4 heads. He came to see Krishna in Dwarka. He said, tell Krishna Brahma is here. And so the attendant came back with, which Brahma? He said, what do you mean, which Brahma? Are there more Brahmas? He said, well, let Krishna explain that. So Krishna came to see him, and he says, I have one doubt. He said, they asked, which Brahma? He said, I'll show you some of the others. And some had 4 heads, some had 10, 20, 50, 100, million heads. With that many heads, you can really think clearly, can't you? Or has anybody not experienced that? Anybody here have more than 1 head, like 4 heads? 4 heads are better than 1? Is that what they say? That's usually 4 people working on something. But even he was perplexed by Krishna. That's why he tried to fool Krishna, and he ended up being fooled himself. So we're maybe not quite sure how the devotional service works, but we do the experiment. Which way would be better to experience electricity? We can turn on a switch, stick a fork in the light bulb, or read a book about electric theory. That's why it's science. We do the experiment to see how it works. So when we do the experiment, at any moment thinking, how can I please Krishna? How can I please Krishna? How can I be free from these modes of material nature? Here is completely free from the modes of nature. Raghunath Bhatta, raise your hand. Are you free from the modes of nature? I'm free from the mode of goodness. Does that mean I'm almost there? You can, it's possible. By karma kanda? Yes, Prabhupada says it's a long road from the beginning of karma yoga to the end of bhakti yoga. That's why someone comes and turns one screw at the temple. Sometimes we're happy that people are just here. And we start them at, even though the end is devotional service, even a little bit, we're happy if they do. And it's better to get people started with a little bit, to show them we care. It's like people want to know how much you care before they care how much you know. They want to know that you care about their well-being. And when you care about people's well-being, then Krishna becomes pleased. You find a few verses like this in Bhagavad Gita. The one who is not envious, but a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor, who is equal in happiness and distress. Because if you're envious, it's hard to be a kind friend. And if you're a kind friend, it's hard to be envious. You think about it. If you think that one who is not envious, but a kind friend to all living entities, that person becomes dear to Krishna. So wouldn't it be better to try to be non-envious and a kind friend to all living entities than it would be to try to prove how great I think I really am? We're not trying to prove how great we are. We're trying to prove how helpful we can be. We're trying to prove to ourselves and to Krishna how we can surrender, and how, regardless of where we've been, that we can take up this process of devotional service. Lord Rama says that someone who says, from this day forward, I am yours, he says, I take care of him and I give him the courage. So we have to think of that. Each day is a new day for us to improve our devotional service. It's not like a plaque we put up on the wall, like memory of the Rotary Club, or all of you might be alumni of some high school, and maybe you put up a plaque that you're alumni of Mirbank High School or Arena Park High School, but we don't think about it too often. So we don't put up that plaque. We think how we can be of service to Krishna and how we can help others to be of service. So I've been a little worn out the last few days. I'm trying to recover because I go to the Sapta Mandir tonight. I go to Lotus Park tomorrow. And on Saturday I go to Westville. And on Sunday I get to speak the Sunday Feast Lecture. I'm not qualified to do any of these things, but Krishna is good at helping me. He's very good at that. And that's why I don't mind speaking, because then Krishna has to help me. And we put ourselves in a position where Krishna has to help us. Do we do devotional service what Krishna wants, or only if it's convenient? Is that what we do? Well, I'll do devotional service as long as it's convenient. Yesterday we were talking about reservations. Does anyone remember why I said that staying in the Krishna conscious guest house, why is that much different than surrendering to Krishna? Does anyone remember why it's different? Because when you check in the guest house, it's important to have reservations, correct? But when you surrender to Krishna, it's important not to have reservations. Don't get this mixed up. You could really be out of luck. You could miss out on two places to stay, the guest house and Krishna Loka. Because do we go to Krishna Loka with a list of reservations, restrictions, covenants and conditions that we impose upon Krishna to our devotional service? Like you buy something at Mount Edgecombe and you have to sign an agreement about the covenants, conditions, and restrictions. These aren't something you can violate. The restrictions on what you can do and the covenants on the property, what you can't divide the property in half, there's things you do. So we can't give Krishna covenants, conditions, and restrictions. We surrender without reservation. Maybe in the middle we have some reservation. But to get to pure devotional service, we have to have the desire to be free of this. This is why Krishna makes some things very clear and other things they're not clear, because we have to leave it up to Krishna. So what we do is we just ask Krishna to help us with the difficult things. We turn those over to him and we try to do devotional service. We have some problems with property in America. We're building an extra unit and they're having trouble to get the inspectors there, and we can't rent it out until the inspectors are there. And one unit was going to be rented out short term, but because there's fires nearby, the people canceled, and my granddaughter had trouble at her work. But I just have to turn these over to Krishna and take care of my devotional service. So there's always problems in the material world. The one sales trainer, Tom Hopkins, says there's three conditions of life. You're going into a crisis, you're in the middle of a crisis, or you're coming out of one. You can't think, well, let me get all my material situations straight, then I'll surrender to Krishna. Is that what we do? We straighten out the material world, and when it's perfect, then we surrender? Or does something always slip out of place? Maybe we fix one thing and two more things slip out of place. It isn't going to become fixed totally. So we have to make sure that what gets fixed is our relationship with Krishna. And we have to be patient with ourselves, that even if we're not perfect, but we also have to be perseverant and try to make progress. Not give up on progress, but not be impatient with ourselves if we're not progressing as quickly as we'd like to be. Who feels like they're progressing in Krishna consciousness as quickly as they would like to? None of us do we? We all want more. And it's a nandam buddhi vardhanam, an ever-increasing ocean of transcendental bliss. Is that the way the material things are? I remember in the junior high school, which was way back, I read there was the stories and then you had to answer the questions to it. It's called the law of diminishing returns. Does anyone know what that is? This is why when you buy the 500 milliliter soda, the price per ounce is more than when you buy the 2-liter soda. You know why? Because the more you take of it, the less you enjoy of it. The returns are diminishing. That doesn't sound very good, does it? The more you take, the less you enjoy. This is what you call chewing the chewed. You chew the sugar cane that has lots of nice juice, and the more you chew it, the less juicy it comes. People do that with the gum. They chew it and chew it and chew it in school, then they put it under the desk, and then they take it out later. Is this a good idea? I don't think so. Plus, the juice is gone. Wasn't there? So someone sang the song, "The thrill is gone." Now, which material enjoyment would that apply to, that the thrill is gone? Maybe all of them? So then the cigarette ad said, "Are you smoking more and enjoying it less?" What's the answer? Yes. So what was their solution? Switch brands. Prabhupada says it's the taste of cool, the cool taste of cool cigarettes. Prabhupada says, how could it be cool? It's smoke. Right? How can it possibly be cool? This is advertising. It's not the real thing. So this is a law of diminishing returns. And the thrill is going to be gone. Sorry to disappoint you, but the thrill is gone. And when we know the thrill is gone, then we can sacrifice to Krishna. Thank you. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Or as Urmila says, chastisements? Nothing. All right. Hare Krishna. Could have done without that, huh? Oh. My ears are still ringing from that. Does it work? Oh.